Hey friends, Jimmo here again, and I'm going to be picking up where I left off on my last video of how to tint color, and we're going to be moving on to working with metallic paint. So, if you haven't checked out the original video, you definitely want to do that first. The link is going to be in the description, so check that out, and then let's go. Now, one of the more noticeable differences when working with metallic paints is you have two extra components that you have to worry about, known as face and pitch. So the face of the color is when you're looking directly at the car, when you're squared up to it on 90 degrees, and you see one color. The pitch of the color is when you're looking at that car on an angle of less than 45 degrees. Now, both the face and the pitch can be controlled independently, but generally when you're tinting a color, you'll want to get the face right and then move on to correct the pitch. Now, another major challenge with metallic paints is the fact that the color can change quite a bit based on the pressure that it's sprayed at. So these spray out cards have been sprayed with the exact same color, half at a high pressure, half at a low. So the high pressure is where the metallics sit on top and it reflects lighter. The lower pressure, it sits for a bit longer and it reflects a darker color. Now, this is another example of why blending with modern paints is a must, because even if you get the exact same paint, you can't guarantee that you're going to get the exact same color. Now, not only is pressure going to affect how the color is going to look, but anything that's going to affect how wet the product is going on. So anything from your spraying equipment to your spraying technique to the temperature and humidity is going to have an impact on a metallic color. So rather than actually tinting a metallic color, sometimes you can just adjust the pressure and see if you can get that color where you need to be without actually adding anything into it. So aside from pressure to adjust the value of the color, you can use the same methods described in the video previously. But also some things to keep in mind with a metallic color is that if you need to make some adjustments to the flake, sometimes you need to make your flake coarser so it matches kind of the texture look of your paint. You want to do that before you make too many corrections to the lightness, darkness value of the color, because it's going to impact that as you go. So once you have the metallic the way you need it, then you want to move on to fine-tuning the value. So one thing to keep in mind when you need to adjust the hue of your color is that you should try to avoid using high-hiding opaque toners, because what they're going to do is mask some of the metallics in your formula and inadvertently affect the brightness and darkness and texture of your metallics. So whenever you need to make an adjustment, try and use a transparent toner here. Now, the chroma is also affected a bit by the metallics, but for the most part adjusting the chroma is the same as in a solid color. But the same rule applies here. Try and use a transparent toner or you're going to kill the metallics. So once you've made your adjustments to the face, it's time to move on to adjust the pitch. Now, a lot of the times when you correct the face of the color, the pitch kind of falls into place, but if that's not the case, there are a few things we can do here. But what I would first recommend is that you try and get a hold of your paint manufacturer and get a tinting guide. Now, that will tell you exactly what toner is going to affect your colors and how. So if you had that, it would make life a lot easier for you. But some general rules for adjusting the pitch is adding a low strength white or a flop adjuster will lighten it, and adding a low strength black will darken it. So some final things to keep in mind is keep your adjustments small. You don't want to be dumping a ton of color in until you know how it's going to affect things. And spray out your colors, because a metallic color you're not really going to get a good feel for just looking at it on a stick. And lastly, clear your spray out cards before applying, because the clear is going to darken it slightly, and if you want to see exactly what it's going to look like before it's in the car, make sure you're doing that. So one last thing I wanted to show you guys that's sort of related. Well, it is and it isn't, but I found it fascinating nonetheless. That spray out card is one color with one coat of clear applied to the top and 10 coats applied to the bottom. And one thing you can see here that is for certain is that I had way too much time on my hands that day. But you can also see that the bottom is a bit darker than the top. So I found that interesting. Let me know what you guys think. But that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Later.